Hi everyone, I'm back. Today is very exciting, okay? I think the sound quality should feel sublime. If it's not, let me know. I do have a new mic. This is the Blue Yeti X. She invested in herself, she geeked up, so let me know if you prefer the sound quality of this mic as opposed to like my previous videos. And happy Pride Month. For those who don't know, June is Pride Month and we celebrate LGBTQIA plus individuals, communities. It's been a year since I've come out publicly to my parents, to basically everyone on the internet, and also openly discuss like my queerness, my queer life, my gender identity. Hey, just popping in here for a minute to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of different classes that you can take, and with members from around 150 countries, like just all around the world. You can learn anything at any level. So if you're a beginner at, let's say, like photography, there's classes on personal development, on business, on branding, anything and everything that you could think of. I personally really enjoy using Skillshare as a creative self-employed person because I find that not only does it get my creative juices flowing, but it also helps with my career. So whether you want to pick up a new skill, or you want to, pick up a new hobby, or if you want to brush up on your knowledge, Skillshare is literally the perfect place. So recently, because I have been more into personal development, having a growth mindset, this time around I've actually pivoted more towards like personal development, journaling, mindfulness, and I want to improve my quality of life. So this is the class that I'm doing right now. It's called Reach Your Goals, 7 Personal Development Exercises to Build a Life You Love by Nedra Tawwab. Hope I'm saying that right. And she is a therapist and an author. So I've been doing that and I've been feeling really energized and inspired. So if you want to check out Skillshare, I will leave a link down below. The first 1,000 of you that click that link will get a free month of Skillshare Premium. So yeah, check it out. You have nothing to lose. It's free for a whole month. Thank you so much, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. And now we're going to move on to the Q&A. Alright, so the biggest questions actually surround my pronouns, which in case you guys don't know, I've switched them from she, her to she, they. A lot of people don't really understand what pronouns specifically mean, so we kind of understand like the most I hope we do. Like for example, if I say my preferred pronouns are she, her, it means that I usually identify as a woman. I would like to be referred to as a woman with feminine pronouns like she and her. If let's say I were to choose they, them, for example, like my preferred pronouns, I guess you can make the assumption that I see myself as non-binary. The most simple way to kind of describe non-binary is like fluid. So sometimes you feel more masculine, sometimes you feel more feminine, or both, or none. So sometimes you don't feel like any gender at all, sometimes you feel like a bit of both. So it really differs between every NB or like non-binary person. And for my case now, I'm using the pronouns she, they. For me, that basically means that I identify as a woman, but I also identify as being fluid. That feeling of knowing that like I don't 100% subscribe to the idea of being a woman, even though I am very feminine and I enjoy feminine things, has always stuck with me. So I think I've been thinking about my pronouns for maybe like 2 years now, maybe 1 to 2 years, but I never made the change because I thought it was gonna be kind of pretentious and kind of inconvenient for everyone. I'm already privileged in so many ways. Like I, for the most part, do see myself as cisgendered. So I was like, maybe I don't want to rock this boat. Like maybe I don't want to like screw this up for people who really need to change their pronouns, to feel like way more comfortable, because I'm fine with she, her. But now that it's been like 2 years on, a lot of my friends are using they, them pronouns, and it's not that difficult to just catch on and go with the flow. And I feel like it's my time, like it's comfortable and it's safe for me to come out in that way and just try and experiment with a different set of preferred pronouns. And another thing that's actually really interesting, so like I'm also learning, like there's always so much to learn. So I did talk to my best friend, and they are also non-binary and they go by they, them. Is there a difference between like they, she, and she, they, and like all these combinations? Because I also got a couple of questions on my DMs, and they actually said that yeah, there is a preference depending on the individual. Some people, if they use she, they might prefer she, her, and then like they, them. or they might be completely like 50-50, like no preference which pronoun that you use. Usually though, the pronoun that they put in front is the one that they prefer. So for me, I'm still she, they, feeling definitely more comfortable and more familiar with she, her pronouns, but my non-binary friends like to use they, them on me now, and it feels so nice. I again didn't think that it would be a big deal because I'm still using she, her. I don't think I will ever transition. It's not that dramatic, you know, it's not that big a deal. Like for me, it's just a way to express myself, and I feel really good about it. Surprisingly, I feel very light and very like happy and excited to be using they, them pronouns. Wow, this is such a good question. Okay, do you feel like you have to embody the them pronoun in a tangible way? I always kind of thought about that also, and honestly, that's why it took me so long to start adopting they, them pronouns, because I was like, I look very much like a woman. I also feel for the most part like a woman. You know, there's always this like shameful part of your brain that you really don't want to fucking interact with, but they just like come up behind you and they talk, and they're just like, why you want to switch to like they, them when you look like a girl anyway? Like, you know, then you get like upset for no reason when people misgender you. Yeah, so how reasonable is it to expect someone to know to use they, them pronouns on me when I look so much like a cisgendered she, her pronoun using woman, right? Yeah, so then I always thought about, you know, how visibly queer I must be. And that does partly tie into why I only feel ready now, which is because I feel and exude more visible queerness, if that makes sense. But this is something that I'm trying to unlearn. So it shouldn't matter what your gender identity is versus how you express your fashion and your style and your outward appearance. So I know some trans women who really go all out with the florals, who go out with the pink, and they really love dressing hyper feminine. But I also know some trans women who don't. They actually prefer a cooler androgynous style. And same way for non-binary people. Sometimes they just want to dress like super like boyish, and they want to look like a boy, they want to feel like a boy. They bind, wearing a binder so it flattens their chest, and packing, you know, like all these things are done to traditionally achieve a more masculine look. I sometimes like to wear like overalls and whatever, and sometimes I like to show a bit of my tits. It doesn't matter. You're not a living stereotype. Like what you identify as and what you wish to wear that day, what kind of makeup you wish to put on, if you want to put on any at all that day, like shouldn't really be prescribed by what you identify as. But for me also, ever since I've adopted they, them pronouns, I've actually been way more comfortable in dressing more androgynously, and I think my fashion style definitely has changed. Previously, when I, you know, only use she, her pronouns and I very much identified as a straight passing woman, I wore a lot of stuff that I wasn't actually interested in. So I wore a lot of like floral sundresses, like things that look good on me that I know people liked. But at the end of the day, I never felt super comfortable. I didn't feel like they were me. When I gave those clothes away, I didn't feel a thing. In a way, when you express yourself to the universe and you tell people around you and you acknowledge to yourself your gender identity, I think your style and your mannerisms will open up to kind of like encapsulate more of your personality, and you can be more of your authentic self. If the time comes for it, it will happen. Yeah, so don't worry about having to perform a they, them like non-binary stereotype in order to like earn your badge. Almost. It doesn't exist. Okay, so another question that was asked was, do you still identify as pansexual, or are you a lesbian right now? Yeah, actually, surprisingly, I'm getting quite a lot of like my sexual orientation, whether I'm pansexual, bisexual, or lesbian. I am unfortunately still reluctantly attracted to a very few select number of men. I try not to be. I'm sorry, I'm sure men will agree. Women are just fucking fantastic, and like I also haven't been openly queer as an adult for a very long time. The time that I have been openly queer, I was in a relationship. So now I am very excited to step into a queer space and to get to know people within the queer community. So there was another question that said, how do you meet lesbians, right? And I actually also had that question for the longest time when I was younger. But now that I'm 26 and like openly queer, let me segue really quick and share with you how my life has been like since I came out last year openly on the internet. I didn't think it was necessary nor a big deal, but it's been huge. Like, it's been really empowering to claim that as part of my identity and to be able to express my queerness more visibly and more openly. So definitely, like, I've noticed some companies stopped working with me or stopped reaching out, but I've also noticed that there are more companies that are more inclusive and celebrate diversity working with me outside of Pride Month, you know? So I've been really excited about that. I've also had a lot of people come up to me to tell me that they're also queer, or to, you know, share stories about their queerness and how, you know, they feel a lot more comfort in knowing that like this isn't that weird, and that like we just love who we love. Like, it's really doesn't have to be labeled. It doesn't have to be like a whole dramatic upheaval if you don't want it to be. I really like that I put my queerness out there so that it feels safe for other people to tell me that they're queer too, which is nice. At this point in my life, I am more interested to meet queer people and to form a queer community because I haven't had that before, right? So I've been on dating apps. I know I said I was never gonna be back on Tinder. Did I say that to the internet? Maybe not. But I told myself after the bad date, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna use Tinder anymore. And I broke that rule because I made these new friends, and they got together via Tinder. They're a lesbian couple, and they were like, you know, just go like Tinder, you know, it's a lot of people, but you gotta sift through, and like, you know, we found each other, like I'm sure you'll find someone. So I did download Tinder, and I specifically only swipe for women on Tinder. And to be fair, I have spoken to 2 guys. One guy I met who ended up fucking my friend. I don't know why do I keep giving them chances? Like, I don't understand. They just keep on disappointing me and all women in general. My first date after breaking up was with a man, and trust me, I did not want to go. He asked me like several times, and I already ghosted him like 2-3 times, but he was really sincere, and he was like the cutest one lah, like out of all of my matches, right? So I was like, okay, you know what, like, why not? It's just one evening. Like, I could use the practice of like being on a date and having a conversation, because obviously I haven't been on a date in years. So I went, and then it was really wholesome. It was a really good date, and I was like very surprised. And then we had like conflicting schedules. He was traveling, and then I got COVID, so we had to reschedule the second date like twice. And then on the second time I had a work thing, and I told him like, hey, can we reschedule? Because honestly the date was to go to his house, and there were like no actual plans, and I was like not really like that into the idea of just meeting this guy at his house with no plan, because I know what that leads to. So I'm like, and then he just like cut me off, and he was like, I don't think we should go out anymore, even though that was gonna be the second date, and we had a really good first date. So for me, actually, when that happened, I was like, all right. Because at the end of the day, that is the nature of my work and my plans. They're very last minute. So I feel like if someone can't even accommodate me giving them a 3-day heads up to be like, hey, you know, the thing that we're meeting for with no plan, no reservations, like whatever, at your house chilling, like, can we move that to any other day of the week? And then he cannot do that. So like, no love lost. And then I found out afterwards, I think like a week later or so, that he had been secretly fucking my friend. And yeah, I asked him about this particular friend because like we were mutuals on Instagram, and then he was like, oh, we're friends, we're just friends. And then no, they're like fully having a friends with benefits situation, and he's also 34 and recently slept with like a 21-year-old, which immediately made my vagina dry up, turn into a raisin, go into my body and stay there forever. It was a very close call, okay? Again, man just disappointing me left and right. After that, I just haven't seen a man. I've just been dating non-binary people and women, and let me tell you, it's been great. It's so fucking fantastic. It's really nice. I feel like when it comes to dating like non-binary people and women, I always feel more comfortable and more safe being a little bit more like flirty and a bit more like innocent, and the conversations are always better. It's more sincere. We generally have more things in common than I feel like me and a straight guy. I'm having such a good time. I feel like a lot of the first dates feel like friendship dates, which is very nice because of course there's sexual tension, but there's also like no stress and anxiety around like the protocol of straight dating, which I feel like I personally was bogged down by when I was younger. And I think I'm just more confident and more sure in myself and my queerness to be able to have a good time without really overthinking it. So yeah, it's been great. Like, I'm really enjoying taking my time and getting to know different people. There's also another question. Let me just lump them together. Like, what's my type, right? What kind of woman are you attracted to? Any particular type? I do have types. My first biggest kryptonite is the chapstick lesbian, the STEM, the androgynous. Like, if 0 is like super feminine and 10 is like super butch, I would say like 4 to 6 is like the sweet spot. Long hair, baggier clothing, don't really give a shit. Like, that's my type. I don't really see a lot of like the chapstick lesbian type in Singapore. Usually I feel like lesbians in Singapore are a bit more binary in that way, so you either get like butch or you get femmes, and you don't really have like the androgynous right in the middle type. That doesn't mean that I don't date outside my type. If anything, I actually haven't dated my type before. Like, well, okay, a little bit, but not as much as I would like to. And then the other type is like non-binary people. I just think they're so interesting, and they usually have like a fluidity to them that I really enjoy. And yeah, it's just hot. It's just like sexy. Yeah, as long as their personality is great, honestly, like which category you fall under like doesn't really matter to me. Would you also consider dating a trans man? Sure, why not? Come on down. Let's start with this one. Top or bottom or switch? Happy to announce that I am a switch. Thank you very much. I do have my preferences, of course, but if it calls for it, I will deliver. Okay, also, how do you find women and females to date? Dating at or organically in real life? So it's a little bit of both, and the good thing about Singapore is that it's a village, so literally like if you don't meet them on dating apps, you'll highly likely meet them in like real life events, especially if you go for queer events. So if you're queer, if you want to date someone that's also queer, a good option would be to pay attention to what's happening this month. So there's like Pink Fest, there's Pink Dot, obviously. There are after parties, like so many, like the Two Queens one. There are like trivia nights by Proud. Honestly, like even other like private like club events and stuff, they always have like a pride centric event. Like this month is all about pride. So if you want to crawl out of your little queer baby hole and you want to explore and you want to meet other queer people just as friends or as dates, then like go and put yourself out there. Try and include yourself in these activities and make friends along the way. Yeah, if you are too shy and you want to take things at your own pace, then dating apps are a really great way to meet people. And you can say that specifically in your profile. I've seen it quite a couple of times, just being like, hey, looking for queer friends. So that's a good way to start. Thoughts on coming out online but not directly to your parents? Okay, in terms of coming out, don't ever feel like you need to do it because of a certain deadline that you set for yourself. 100% only come out when you are ready. And especially when it comes to like your parents and stuff, like if you live with them in the same house and if you don't 100% feel ready and safe. I've unfortunately heard of a lot of stories where, you know, they come out or like they get outed and they don't feel safe or they don't feel comfortable, or, you know, there's a lot of tension, a lot of disappointment, and there's also like a breakdown in communication and empathy and understanding. And honestly, the best time to come out is when you feel sure of yourself, you feel safe, you know that if it goes badly, you have a backup plan and you have like somewhere you can go, someone you can talk to and stuff like that. So just make sure that you have that support system ready before you come out. And yeah, it doesn't hurt to rehearse, to plan out what you want to say and how you want to say it, and also to really like contextualize and pack it with like a lot of love and compassion for yourself as well as the people that you're coming out to. If you feel like you're in a relationship and you keep hiding it and it makes you uncomfortable, that could be a sign that, you know, you feel like you are ready. You can honestly just like, this is my girlfriend or like this is my boyfriend, or like, this is my lover. I'm just kidding. Sometimes honestly, like, silence is the best. Like, just say it, and then just like, just give them the space to sit and breathe with it. Make it known that you are okay to answer any of their questions if they have any, but at the same time, like, don't demand acceptance or a reply from them immediately, especially if you know that they're not quite ready for one, just in case like you force something out of them that you don't want to hear. If they express disappointment, or if they express shock or disgust, or all these things will hurt you, even though they might actually be just like knee-jerk reactions. The older generation, like our parents, or like people who have been brought up with the belief that queerness and homosexuality is like wrong, they tend to be a little bit more reactionary. So to protect yourself from that, I would say like, just remain calm. Yeah, I guess I can't tell you like how exactly to come out. There's so many different ways to do it. You can do it in the gayest way possible. You could do it in a really nonchalant way. You can do it sometimes like under pressure, and there's no right or wrong way to come out. But I do find that through my friends and my experience is that if you just let whoever you came out to sit with the idea of you being queer, being gay, dating someone of the same gender, they usually take a bit more time on their own to kind of reflect and come to terms with it. So just the same way as you've had time to process and sit with and really find the vocabulary for your gender identity and your sexual orientation, I think you can also afford the same courtesy to whoever you're coming out to, especially if you care about them enough to come out to them. So yeah. How do you deal with judgments? I think, okay, there are two different kinds of judgments that I get mostly. The first one is ones that are based in bigotry, using religious means to justify their bigotry. More often than not, I do get very angry people just going on and on about me being sinful and like eternal damnation and stuff like that. When I see those things, I know that it's not personal. It's just like something that they see online. They're like, oh, this person is gay, like blah, 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 blah. And I try not to take it personally, because like that is not my freaking problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, you obviously have some kind of hang up about the entire community of people and just the idea of being queer. I guess because I've gotten it a couple of times already, I just learned to like tune it out. Don't know what other judgments there would be, because to be quite honest, right, it's been kind of nice. Like, it's been kind of chill. I don't really have people judging me quite the same way as I guess I would be judged if I was a bit younger, but also I was in a girls' school when I came out, so it's really not that big a deal. Yeah, I think at this point, especially with Gen Zs being more openly queer and dating each other, which is so fucking cute, the kind of landscape that we live in now is not as ignorant and like judgy as it used to be, and more people are just kind of like, whatever makes you happy, whatever floats your boat. Like, my parents didn't even say anything, and they are quite like traditional Chinese Asian parents. Don't worry about the things that haven't come yet. Once people judge you, then you figure out like what you want to do with it, and most of the time it's to not take it personally. Oh, how interesting. How to differentiate admiring girls and actually liking them. I think a good way for that would be to think about having sex with them. Whether you want to be them or you want to wake up next to them every morning. I think that's a pretty good marker, because women I admire and feel like are so stunning and so beautiful, or so powerful, so smart, so funny, and I want to be like them, like they are my role models, are very different from the kinds of people that I'm like, oh my god, they make me feel things. Yeah, so ask yourself that question and you'll figure it out. Do lesbians actually scissor, or is it some weird made up thing by straight men? So this is very interesting, because I personally have not scissored before, and I also thought that it was like a weird manufactured porn thing. But I did listen to this podcast. I think it was called Just Between Us. It's by Alison Raskin and Gabby Dunn, and Gabby is polyamorous, bisexual, now non-binary, and they were kind of talking about how they also thought that like scissoring is fake, and like they would get really angry, and guys or like people just assume that they scissor with their partners, and they'd be like, no, what the fuck, that's crazy. But they also realized in the end that some people do actually scissor. Some people really actually enjoy it, and it is a real thing. And so now they're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't like shit on that now. Personally, I've not met anyone IRL that has said to my face that they really enjoy scissoring. I'll let you know if that changes. There's so many kinks in this world. Like, that's variety, diversity. We love it. Next question, how do you maintain a good relationship with your ex and not get jealousy in the way? If you asked me a week ago, I would have said that I had a really good kind of answer for it, which was to keep your dating life separate and private from your ex unless things get very serious, very official, or if you get asked the question and they just want to know and like you've communicated before that it's okay. But now I'm not so sure because me and my ex are not in contact anymore and it was not my decision. I still don't really know what happened exactly, but I think maybe they're just not ready, and I understand and respect that decision completely. I did get out of the relationship pretty hopeful that we would stay friends, but if it doesn't work out that way, also I have to learn not to take it too personally and just allow each other the time and space to heal. If you feel like hanging out with your ex regularly to seem cool or breezy is actually affecting you a lot, then 100% do not recommend you continue doing it and pretending that it doesn't affect you. I would highly recommend you having an honest conversation with your ex and being like, hey, I still care for you and it does affect me, so maybe we need some time apart. Yeah, I feel like that would be the most mature and emotionally responsible thing to do. Is sex on the first date okay with you? I normally wait until the third at least because shy. I've struggled with this because I have had sex on the first date and I have waited on purpose even though I wanted to have sex on the first date. Most of the times when I had sex on the first date, I don't regret it in the moment, but I regret it like a few weeks down the road. I think it definitely changes the relationship dynamic very, very quickly, and sex then becomes a huge part of your dating relationship. If you genuinely want to form a real connection, and if sex is not the main reason why you're on the date, then I would say it actually pays to give it a second, to wait a bit. So the first guy I was talking about who ended up screwing my friend and screwing a 21-year-old girl, he didn't try to ask me to have sex with him on the first date or something, and I had no intention to. Looking back on that, I am so glad that I didn't jump into anything because, first of all, sexual health is a huge thing. You should get tested regularly. You should have conversations with your sexual partners to make sure that they are also testing regularly, and so you don't spread nothing bad to each other. You know what I mean? Be responsible, use condoms, use protection. That's a big thing, which I feel like on the first date, maybe you're not that comfortable unless you really are. Unless you're there for sex and you're ready to have that conversation. And secondly, I've actually realized that when you go on a date with sex being on the table on the first date, it always makes me a little bit more nervous rather than if I were to just be like, okay, there's definitely no sex happening tonight. I'll go and it's more of a getting to know you kind of conversation, and it gives you a little bit of time to sit and breathe with it and think do I actually want to have sex with this person? Do I actually want to pursue anything more, or are they just good for sex? In which case, the next time you go on a date, then just have sex with them. So yeah, from now on I feel pretty confident that I will not be having sex on the first date, just because the last time I had sex on the first date did not end well. It was crazy. It was like a love bomb situation. I wish I could share that story. Let me think about it. Also, I've learned that the hallmark of a good relationship is having a strong foundation of friendship and trust and admiration and respect for each other. To have a sexual relationship, obviously that's not that important, but if you truly want a meaningful connection, take your time and enjoy the process. I truly feel sometimes that sexual tension and the excitement of seeing them again is more often than not more exciting and more pleasurable than the sex itself, than if you were to just cut to it, to the end point, unless again that's what you want. Dating is just more fun when there's a bit more of that sexual tension in the air, and you never know what's gonna happen type of thing, and celebrating small milestones bit by bit. Enjoy the process, take your time. How was it going on your first date with she/they versus okay how was it going on your first date with a woman or non-binary person versus a cis male? Good question. Recently go on a couple of first dates with women and non-binary people, and I think I found that it's always been a bit more lighthearted, a bit more casual. Don't know if I'm just nervous or just pessimistic when it comes to like cis males, or that I feel stressed that they would have certain expectations on how the night would go. But like I said, in general, dating women and non-binary people, like the dates themselves have been more pleasant. I feel like, yeah, my dates generally are more interested in me as a person, and we have like a deeper level of conversation that flows both ways, versus cis men who usually either talks a lot about themselves, or you know, they'll say the thing about themselves and then I'll repeat what like my perspective is, or like if they talk about their parents, I'll talk about my parents, kind of thing. Like it doesn't have a lot of layers. It's not that interesting. So yeah, I think I generally do prefer dating women and non-binary people. Okay, last question. Can you give some advice to those struggling? So I'm assuming that you are either struggling to come to terms with your gender identity, to express your gender identity, or to tell people, I guess, about your preferences. First things first is I feel like you should be kinder and more gentle with yourself. This is obviously a difficult transition, to take time to sit with it and to allow yourself to process it. I find that journaling really, really helps. I like to reflect and I like to work on how I'm feeling, why do I feel this way, what kind of triggered me to spiral in a certain way. So now that I am in a dating sphere and I know that I have issues dating, I have certain attachment types, I have certain bad habits that I need to unlearn. No one teaches you how to date, right? And then people just date in all sorts like of toxic and like unhealthy ways. So I'm trying to be healthy and responsible in the way that I'm dating. So I'm like reading more books. I've been recommended this book called How to Not Die Alone. It's written by like the head of behavioral science at Hinge. And then I've also read Overthinking About You, which is about navigating romantic relationships for someone who has OCD, depression, or anxiety. Ding ding ding, by Alison Raskin. And yeah, I'm also gonna read this other book called Polysecure, which basically talks about polyamory and communication. And yeah, I'm just like curious to know more. So yeah, read up on books, listen to queer podcasts, find yourself a community. Just because it seems easy for someone else, like for me for example, it doesn't mean that I got here like in one day, you know. Like it's been a process of understanding myself, understanding the world around me, and adjusting accordingly and seeing what feels right for me and what feels authentic for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. That's all I have for you today. I would love to be able to do more and just kind of have like a sit down chatting session about queerness. I love it. It's great. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, don't forget to click the thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week and I will be back next week. Hopefully, maybe in 2 weeks. I don't know. Turn on the bell, you know, I'll let you know when I have a new video, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.